The spooky season is officially upon us, so we thought we'd round up some of the most potent nightmare fuel on Xbox to help power you through the whole of October and beyond.
We'll start with the latest entry in a series that has been scaring us absolutely silly for as long as we can remember. It is, of course, Resident Evil Village. This time around, our long-suffering friend Ethan finds himself taking a rather impromptu trip to Transylvania after his daughter is kidnapped. And while he may be a man with a very particular set of skills, he's going to have his work cut out for him getting his kid back from this lot. From the towering vampire lady who launched but 1,000 memes to a magnetic-powered monster maker, just about everyone you'll encounter in Resident Evil Village is completely terrifying. What's worse is that they all pretty much have the run of the place, so you'll have to watch out for them and their loyal subjects if you want to make it out alive. With so many things skulking around in the shadows, the ray trace lighting effects found on Xbox Series X and S make the whole experience even more unsettling, but in a good way maybe?
In Visage, you play as a man named Dwayne, who is haunted by something terrible he did in the past. And no, it's not The Rock's questionable appearance in The Scorpion King. This Dwayne is actually haunted by many, many ghosts. Because it turns out that, as awful as his past might be, it's got nothing on the house in which the game takes place. Over the course of history, this building has borne witness to all manner of horrors, with generation after generation falling prey to some kind of tragedy. If these walls could talk, they'd probably just be letting out a single, endless, high-pitched scream. Which actually sounds exactly the kind of terrifying image that Visage is full of. You'll need to keep your wits about you if you want to make your way through the house's haunted hallways, solving puzzles and sniffing out clues as you go, which is easier said than done as the spectral forces at work do everything in their power to try and scare your last bit of sanity away.
Also available on Xbox Game Pass is Alien Isolation, another game which sees you trying to avoid creepy crawling creatures, only these ones are just a tiny bit bigger. Isolation takes us back to the claustrophobic horror of the original movie. But unlike this year's Alien fire teams, here you don't have access to a ton of space marine muscle or a big old pile of gunpowder. This is a game of cat and mouse, and I'm sorry to tell you, you're not the one with the claws. What you do have is a motion tracker that can help you keep tabs on your acid-drooling stalker while you move silently from one hiding spot to the next. The emphasis on sound is particularly effective, making you painfully aware of every noise you're making as you try to go unnoticed while the beeping of the tracker gets ever more urgent. It really is the perfect game to throw on an Xbox wireless headset or a pair of Bang & Olufsen BeoPlay portals and immerse yourself completely in the sheer atmosphere of it all. Just remember that while nobody in space can hear you scream, the people in the next room absolutely can, so try not to get too carried away.
Xbox Game Pass members who are all about those spacey scares can also dig into the full Dead Space trilogy, which offers an altogether bloodier brand of extraterrestrial horror. Once again, you'll be playing as the lone survivor on a space station full of extremely hostile aliens. Dead Space also has plenty of quiet, unbearably tense sections where you're ready to jump out of your skin at the slightest sound. But once the bad guys show themselves, you're given the tools to do a lot more than run and hide. By putting the engineering equipment you find to decidedly less constructive purposes than it was intended for, you can quickly reduce your enemies to a mess of detached limbs and unspecified body fluids, which is super gross but also weirdly satisfying. And of course, the original game now has a big shiny remake on the way, which is sure to be even more terrifying thanks to the Xbox Series X and S's visual and audio optimizations. So be sure to subscribe for all the latest info about it just as soon as we get some more details.
The Dark Picture games are absolutely great if you're the type of person who likes to make a lot of jokes about dumb horror movie characters, with each game putting you into a classic horror scenario to see how you would actually fare. In Little Hope's case, you play as a group of students who are stranded in an abandoned town after their bus crashes and the driver mysteriously vanishes. Ooh, spooky. Who lives, who dies, and how the survivors feel about each other when it's all over depends on the decisions you make along the way in an interactive story that is just bursting with scares and suspense. It's exactly the sort of tension which is made even more palpable with the Xbox Series X and S's spatial sound feature. Playing on a next-gen console, you'll be able to pick out every single noise and know exactly where it came from, even when you'd really rather not. And if you're in the mood for even more choose-your-own-adventure style horror, the original Dark Pictures game, Man of Medan, is available on Xbox Game Pass too. Plus, there's a whole new chapter on the way, with House of Ashes out later this month.
As it was the first Xbox Series X and S console exclusive to hit the market, many players probably got their first taste of next-gen action with The Medium. So apologies if you've been too terrified to turn it back on ever since. The Medium is a third-person horror game that tells the story of a woman named Marianne, who possesses a mysterious connection to the spirit realm. One day, a strange man offers to provide her with information about where her powers came from, but only if she will come hang out with him in an abandoned holiday resort out in the Polish wilderness. And she agrees because apparently Marianne has never watched a single horror movie in her life. The thing which really sets The Medium apart from other horror games is an ingenious mechanic where you can pilot Marianne through both the physical and spiritual realms at the same time, opening up a ton of clever puzzle-solving possibilities and also treating you to a beautifully twisted depiction of what the other side looks like. And that's where the heightened resolution of the Xbox Series X and S really comes into play, allowing you to pick out every stomach-churning detail as you gaze into the spirit realm. And since The Medium is available on Xbox Game Pass, your trip to the spirit world won't involve any travel expenses.
Horror movies are always more fun with friends, and no game has tapped into this fact more effectively than the asymmetrical slasher Dead by Daylight. The hit multiplayer game works around a very simple formula. One of you controls a psychotic killer, while the rest are their would-be victims, trying desperately to manufacture an escape route without ending up hanging from a meat hook. And that's literally, by the way. It's already the sort of game that you could play to death, but even more so thanks to the constant addition of new characters like Pinhead to help you raise some hell. It's available now on Xbox Game Pass, and if you're playing on a Series X, you can chop up your friends in full 4K 60 and really appreciate each violent red splatter, because if we're being honest, that's what slasher movies are all about.
The Little Nightmares games are incredible because they can make your heart rate surge even when there's nothing really happening. Between the lonely score and the eerie, shadow-covered art design, every abandoned street and empty hallway is just dripping with atmosphere. And sometimes other things too. These haunting puzzle platformers put you in control of a small child inside a mysterious world where just about everything seems to be terrible. It's unclear how this place came to be as twisted as it is, but you won't really have time to worry about that either, as each place you arrive introduces you to a cleaver-wielding butcher with a taste for fresh meat, or a scowling schoolteacher willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that you're seen and not heard. Next-gen gamers even get to choose whether to be frightened out of their minds with the incredible detail of 4K or the seamless fluidity of 60 FPS, so that's nice. And don't forget to keep up to date with all the other games which are delivering that sort of top-notch next-gen performance. Subscribe and ring that bell, as we're always giving you the inside scoop on the newest titles.
Did you know that a rat can jump up to 3 feet in the air? You didn't? Well, now you do, which might make you just a little bit more prepared to take on the scuttling horrors of A Plague Tale: Innocence. The furry critters are absolutely everywhere, and I mean everywhere, in 14th century France, and many of them carry the dreaded Black Plague, but not one of them shows any interest in social distancing. So selfish. You play as a young girl named Amica, who is on the run from the French Inquisition. Since you're in absolutely no state to go toe-to-toe with a bunch of fully armed, fully grown adults, you'll have to stay out of sight, evade your enemies, and perhaps even learn to use those hordes of man-eating rodents to your advantage. A Plague Tale: Innocence is currently on Xbox Game Pass, and if you're an Xbox Series S or X owner, you can enjoy all the rat-rustling action in 60 frames per second thanks to this year's next-gen upgrade. And you'd be amazed how much more skin crawling those extra frames can make the whole thing. Ugh, honestly.
Finally, we've got one of the all-time Xbox cult classics, Alan Wake. Part of the reason it's so beloved is that it really has a bit of everything. The nail-biting survival horror of Resident Evil, the is everyone evil or am I just crazy psychological torment of Silent Hill, and a dash of meta-ness, which wouldn't be out of place in a Stephen King book. Basically, if you're into horror games, you're going to fall in love with at least part of Alan Wake. It all goes down in a small town called Bright Falls, where Alan and his wife are quickly set upon by shadowy figures known as the Taken. The good news is that they can be fended off with a beam from a flashlight. The bad news is that Alan's nightmare has only just begun. And with the game's gorgeous remaster arriving at the start of October, you can witness all the horrors of this Xbox 360 classic in stunning 4K. I mean, who doesn't wish that their nightmares came with better resolution? Thanks for watching today's video. We'll be back with some more seasonal recommendations all through the year, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. We'll see you next time. Bye!